high above the Solukhumbu, a razor-edged mountain hid a route no one could prove and claimed climbers who never returned. In 1961, one expedition stepped into that silence, chasing a summit that would test every limit of human endurance.
Hey, glad you're here. Welcome to the Himalayan Journals. Here on this channel, we bring to you real stories from century old field notes. We try to keep it simple and calm here. Think of it as a documented history of the Himalayas from the early 1900s, covering stories of indigenous wisdom, epic expeditions, and groundbreaking science passed on just as they were recorded. Subscribe, zone out, binge.
Dablam rose above the Solukhumbu like a white granite fang above Thiangboche Monastery and the gorge of the Dudh Kosi. Sherpas called it Mother and Locket for the long ridges that seemed like arms and the shining ice on its breast. At first sight, the mountain looked impossible, yet after an autumn and winter beside it, a way to the summit was seen. Others had tried before. A reconnaissance in 1955 started on the South Mingbo Ridge. In 1958, Cunningham reached 19,500 feet before turning back. In 1959, Harris and Fraser were last seen at 21,000 feet on the North Ridge and never returned. The expedition's winter camps stood between Mingbo Scientific Base at 15,300 feet and Silver Hut at 19,000 feet. By mid-February 1961, Wally Romanes and Pemba Tenzing set out on February 18th to examine the Mingbo Ridge. They climbed to 19,500 feet and found an 80-foot wall guarded by an overhang, likely Cunningham's highest point, but also a good site for Camp 2. Soon, Mike Ward and Barry Bishop climbed the overhang with about 20 pitons and fixed a ladder. Romanes joined them, and after 2 days of hard climbing, another ladder was set and 300 feet of steep rock overcome. Beyond this lay the gap and the first step, a smooth, vertical wall. After 2 more days, Bishop, Romanes, and Ward climbed it with pitons and ropes. Next came the second step. Gill and Romanes crossed rotten ice in a dangerous gully and found the ridge above. Camp 3 was placed in the gap. By March 8th, the route to Camp 4 was finished, and on March 11th, the summit assault began. They dug a snow cave high on the ridge, looking across Kongtega, Menlungse, and Dongiragutao. On March 13th, they climbed steadily past ice cliffs and up a fluted snow face. At 2:30 p.m., they reached the summit, a broad plateau with a narrow crevasse. Everest rose ahead, with Makalu to its right. The descent began quietly until 2 rope lengths down, they found Gumi Dorji with a broken leg from a fall of 10 feet. Ward splinted it, and the party carried him down with great difficulty, camping twice on ledges in snow. On March 18th, exactly a month after the first reconnaissance, they reached Mingbo. Soon after, the expedition turned toward Makalu. Earlier, history weighed on them. In 1954, Sir Edmund Hillary had been evacuated from Makalu, and in 1955, a French expedition had climbed the mountain with oxygen. In March 1961, J. Harrison reached Namche Bazaar, only to learn that permission for Makalu had been canceled because of the unscheduled ascent of Dablam. Hillary flew to Kathmandu, resolved the dispute, and the party gathered again in Mingbo Valley. They carried more than 200 loads over 3 passes of 19,500 feet, 20,350 feet, and 20,000 feet, using 50 Sherpas. By April 3rd, the first party crossed Dablam Col into the Hongu Valley. Camps were established step by step until Camp 1 stood at 17,000 feet above the Barun Glacier. Camp 2 at 19,500 feet and Camp 3 at 21,250 feet followed. Fixed ropes were placed toward Makalu Col at 24,300 feet. Then trouble came. Hillary suffered a mild stroke and was evacuated. Ward took command. Camp 6 was placed at 25,800 feet, and the first summit attempt fought upward but turned back in bad weather with frostbite and exhaustion. A second attempt also failed when Mulgrew collapsed at 27,400 feet and others fell ill. Sherpas and climbers struggled in storms to bring the sick down. Mulgrew, Ward, and Ang Themba were eventually flown to Kathmandu for treatment. The battered party returned to Mingbo Valley. They had not climbed Makalu, but the scientific program had gathered its data, and in the fierce struggle on Dablam and Makalu, they had learned again the strength and courage of the Sherpas who worked beside them in the high winds of the Himalaya.